So hi and welcome again to the CodeMaven channel, and welcome back Ferki. Thank you for joining us, and all the people who joined us in the live coding session, and everyone who's watching this also welcome. So let's get started. In the last just 1 second. So the last video, the last session, we set up a server for the management, and then we had two other machines, Ubu1 and Ubu2. And the thing that I did now, in order to prepare for this meeting, let me share. Actually, in order to prepare for this meeting, I set up basically the same. Hopefully, didn't make too many mistakes. I actually created a Rex file to set this up, and I encountered all kind of issues. And maybe we can go get over these items and see what I might have done wrong. So welcome to you. Okay, so question, yeah, the what we were using. Okay, let me just actually share. Did you want to say so? Hi, Ferki. Say something nice, and I'll share the screen. Then.
Yes, I also just wanted to say hi, everyone. Welcome back if you already joined for the first one, or welcome to the first session if you just joined for this. Yeah, I look forward what Gabor prepared for today. We just had a short discussion about what to cover and what would be the overall goal, where to bring this. He would like to build an elk cluster in the long term, all automated. But I guess we'll see how the journey will be towards that goal. Maybe we will go with a bit smaller steps today and round it off from last time.
Okay, so let me share the screen, and then we can get this. So this is the console, or whatever, the UI of DigitalOcean, where we have these three machines, the CodeMaven Rex, which is going to be our management host, and two machines which are called Ubu1 and Ubu2. And if I manage to find, yeah. So I wrote down a little bit what I did. So I created, last time we created an SSH key pair on the machine. This time I created it on my machine and saved it separately, so I can later reuse that same SSH key pair and deploy basically the private key to the management host, so we can keep this kind of setup that even the management host is outside of not my machine for now, and especially for the demo purposes. So I created manually, and that's one of the things that on the long term we might fix, that I have to create things manually on DigitalOcean. Ferki, lots of noises coming from you. I think it's from you.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, could be. No, I'm sitting still.
Okay. So I set up this Ubuntu 20.04 in New York 1 in this time, and coded CodeMaven Rex, and I did it manually. And I also created two other droplets with the same distribution, same area, Ubu1 and Ubu2. That's manual job, and maybe at one point we can work on this, to make this, even though it's not, I think, as I understand, it's not really the job of Rex to create these instances, but we can automate that as well, or at least we can automate the fetching of the IP addresses of these. But maybe that's not for today. Then I ran on this. I just copied it for myself. So I ran this command, so I can see the IP at the machine that I was the management machine. And here I started to describe what I need to do, but actually I created the Rex file for it. So a couple of things that I wrote, and then tell me how this could be improved. So just here is the task to show the host name. Then I had this task to install the Rex from the Linux distribution, because this was what we had last video. So I had to do this update package DB that I'm not sure that we did last time. This is basically the apt-get update. right? Without that, it wouldn't install it because you couldn't climb.
Yeah, depending on what the image contains, right? If it already has the official Ubuntu repos checked out and updated locally, then it would work without that, based on whatever point in time it was synchronized last time. But it's a best practice to refresh the repository information before doing package operations, right? So that's all good. And we did not cover it last time because we did not need it.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I'm actually surprised because we did install Apache, well, not Apache, Nginx, and for Nginx we didn't need it.
I'm not sure if it depends on the package actually, but it's more like what image was used to provision this cloud instance you created. Maybe 2 weeks ago, it was an image that contained a fresh enough checkout of the Ubuntu repos, and now it's old or does not contain it anymore. Not sure about the details. It wouldn't hurt if it's there. It will just run apt-get update in the case of Ubuntu. But of course, if it would be a different operating system, it would try to guess that and run other commands. Yeah.
So anyway, that's what I actually. This is the other file. So this is the intro Rexify. This is what we were working on, and I think I had to add this here in this one on the server. This one is the original one, but I think on the server that I copied and then I ran this program command, I had to add the update package DB. I will see it later. So anyway, this is how I installed, right? Did you want
no, it's just like I don't remember it from last time, but it's possible that you might have needed it today or during preparations. So, it doesn't hurt putting there.
Yeah. So anyway, this is what I run on my computer in order to install the management machine, and then I just added this rex -v to see what version is there. And then this is the part that I copied all the files that we actually created last time, and then I downloaded. So this is the so I had to create the SSH directory on the server, and then I copied this. So I had locally on my own machine, I created this SSH key pair. So this is the private key specifically for this demo, and I copied it to the .ssh directory on the server, giving it these rights. So making sure that's root and mode 6000 or 600, sorry. I also copied the config file. Now there's the config file. I had to, so I copied it and then made changes. So the new IP addresses will be included. And this is something that I had to do manually. Maybe at one point it can be automated. Then I had, and I created a directory for this infra that we did manually on the server last time. And also had to, I'm not sure, maybe I could have done it differently, but I used the sync up, which we didn't use last time. That was synchronized this whole directory structure. Okay. One thing that I noticed and I didn't really like is that the sync up is from left to right, so source destination, and the file is destination source.
Yep. Okay. I'm just making notes to.
Okay. So it confused me. It was, well, once you read it and know it, it's okay. But it's strange that it's in different direction. Okay. Then I had this code just to check whether Rex is there, and I thought about how to print out all the lines of tree. And that was actually funny. So I used this, let's run this check Rex. So Rex, how was this? Rex, this was. check Rex. Okay.
Do you need a different IP, no?
No, I think this is already the IP. I already copied through the IP.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so this is how when it runs with Scalar, it prints out really nicely. If I use the say 4 that you suggested earlier, then it doesn't do anything. Do you remember why?
Which version of Rex you have?
And I have like the latest version here.
I currently don't see the whole of your screen. I miss some of the bottom lines.
You don't see the screen?
I see the screen, but I don't see the bottom few lines. Maybe I should just somehow make it full screen or original size.
I can change that. Maybe other people don't see that. Okay. Now you should supposed to see, right?
Yeah, no, it's a bit better.
Okay. So basically this, whatever, I don't know, but this worked really nicely. That I make it scalar and then it prints out really nicely. So that's an alternative that I found. What was this? Okay, so this was my way of trying to what I tried upgrade the system. Okay, so I couldn't find what is the correct command or the Rex command of doing the upget dist upgrade -y. I would be happy to fix this if there is a better way to do this.
Yeah.
And also for the reboot, this gives error, and the second uptime doesn't run because it's supposed to reconnect and wait and reconnect and run it. So, and I have it just a single reboot also. And another thing is that so when I do the update, I would probably want to know if I need to reboot, and only reboot if I need to. Okay, and then there's a comment in the chat that the SSH names ubu1 and ubu2 that we used that are different from ubu-1 and ubu-2 are confusing, and why are not the same. And I agree that in real world we should have the same, probably. So it's if the host name is ubu-1, then we probably should call it also ubu-1 by ourselves. Partially, I used it exactly so we can show that we can have different ones. Okay, so that's sort of my comment on this.
Yeah, or it could even be called like front end 1 or 2. It's all up to how a specific organization or person wants to name the host, right? I think it was also good for, I mean, it had a certain educational value to have this slight difference and show it. But yeah, I also think maybe for the next session or something, we can standardize a bit more. But you know, naming is one of the hard problems in IT, so that's fine.
Okay. So.
All right. I made a couple of notes because I wanted to make sure I can answer all your points or react to them. So if I understand correctly, what you've shown us here quickly is that you are using Rex itself to set up a node to use Rex from as a management node. Last time we just had this management node.
Yeah.
We had Rex set up there manually and I started to write our code. Now you took all that code and you felt that that this is something to automate for the second session. So you can start out and using Rex itself to bootstrap Rex. That's fine.
Yeah. I mean,
that's a nice idea.
Yeah, I mean, normally again you would have your own management server, and then you wouldn't use Rex to set it up because that would be probably your own host. But because we are doing this demo and wanted to have separate servers, I found it's a good way to practice.
Yes, you basically also made a reproducible infrastructure with this, so you can shut it down between sessions. You don't have to run it and pay for it for 2 weeks, but you can quickly resume at the latest date. That is also, I think, quite common in general, to have to deal with this chicken and egg problem sometimes. So that's why it was also interesting. I think at the end of last session, we had a question about like, how do you share Xcode with others? So if it's in a Git repo, for example, under version control, you can just check it out on any machine, even your laptop, or you switch laptops, you go to another workstation and so on. You can check it out there, but you can also do the same, log into a remote machine and git clone there and run the Rex commands from another location. So that often helps, like this flexibility in locality often helps with bootstrapping infrastructure, but also during management. Because I also seen a lot of use cases where the usual pattern was that each administrator used their own laptop to manage the infrastructure, and they did not have a dedicated management node. That could also work, depending how complex situation you have, right? Because if the infrastructure management run takes 3 hours, I would probably not want to run that on my own system anymore. Also at 3 hours, I would probably look into performance optimizations anyway.
Yeah.
But it's common to offload it. Like if you have to regularly run a task to make sure that the configuration drift is at minimum, right? Then it often helps to offload to a dedicated management node.
I tell you also something that I'm just dealing with a company now where I write the code. Actually, that's Ansible code, but for the purpose doesn't really matter. And what happened is that, and we keep all the files checked in, version control. But what happens is that someone edits the files, runs the code, runs the whatever command, that updates the server, and then the person forgets to check in that code into version control. And at that point, no one has any history, what executed where, who executed, nothing. So I even can imagine that the proper way would be that only a single CI server or Jenkins or whatever server can run all this code, and it only runs from checked in version.
Yes, that's one way to do it. So, there's more, of course, as usual, right? Yeah. It all depends on the use case and the team and the workflows they must follow or adhere to. So Rex can be flexible enough to accommodate for a wide range of use cases. That's what I like about it. But essentially what you described feels more like a software deployment problem, right? If there are changes and you deploy it manually without pushing it first, then you would have the same problem. Here, the product is more like the infrastructure. And I think the topic we have to deal with is called infrastructure as code, right? Because we are describing all the infrastructure as programming code, basically, maybe combined with some data, like configuration. But the problem domain to solve is pretty similar to software deployment. So there you also, I don't know, run tests on your code usually, right? I mean, that's good hygiene.
Do you want to talk about this now, how to do this in Rex, and how do you do this, or shall we go to on the code?
We can continue with the topics you brought up, but I also wanted to just reflect on this quickly, because I don't think there might be too much difference in the mental process about how to think about solving this. Like you described, if someone just does a local change and deploys that, that's a problem with infrastructure management. But it's the exact same problem if you do it with your, I don't know, software as a service. Somebody just checks it out, deploys locally from their machine. The other actors on the same team would not have any idea about the change.
Right.
So it's essentially the same problem to solve. It's just like the end product to deploy is not a web application that is reached by end customers through a browser or mobile apps, but the end product is more like the infrastructure that others depend upon. But the logical process to solve this and think about this is essentially the same, in my opinion.
Okay.
So it's a very interesting one. I'm not sure if we should go very deeply into the topic, but I definitely wanted to make this point. Like, the question is not how you do this with Rex, but how you do it with software in general.
No, what I would be interesting is how do you personally do, or as one company? If you can give an example of at company X without even the names, we did.
Yeah, I tried to think about. I try to think about a couple of use cases with small teams or like 1 or 2 people. It's easy to coordinate with each other, like, hey, I'm deploying to these machines or something like that. And then as soon as you deploy it, you merge manually to the main branch. With a slightly bigger teams, it gets more important to make sure I don't break others' code, right? Also, not just bigger teams, but with more complex infrastructures, where I have to write the modules for every different corner of the infrastructure. So testing definitely comes into picture. Rex has its own built-in testing modules. So it's through the Rex test namespace. What it does, it spins up a virtual machine, gets its IP, and runs a task against it. And then you can also run a series of assertions like, is this package installed? Is this file exist? Or does this file have expected content? And so on. Also, is this service running, right? So these kind of assertions that are interesting in an infrastructure context are already built in. And since it's just per code, you can write any other assertion, like, can I reach the database and this SQL statement returns at least 5 rows or stuff like that. You can also build your own. And that can be put into a CI pipeline as well, right? So can I provision these 5 machines? Can I run all my tests? If it's green, I want to just merge it. Or even first deploy and merge it, right? Okay. But at that point, it also depends a lot on the deployment strategy, because if you have a pool style management, all the managed remote endpoints are pulling the code to themselves, then it might be as easy as just, successful tests, passed all lintings and everything, so automatically merge to the main branch, and then all agents will have their own run and apply it locally. But if it's more like you have to deploy it first, so it's not enough to have passing tests, but you also want to make sure that it can actually roll out the changes to my actual infrastructure that is running. Then I saw teams use different strategies about it. For one, the preferred method was to whoever reviews a change, for example, after a CI run, so it's more like a manual process, tries to deploy it, and if it's deployed successfully, then it's merged, right? So that was one approach. The other approach was like, no, this is passing tests, so we do merge it, and then we work on the deployment afterwards, and maybe if there are some bugs left, we will clean that up. So it's more like, finding what works best for the situation. Sometimes it's also interesting that, especially in large infrastructures, I don't know, 10,000 machines, you might not want to do a full management of everything. Just build some logic to detect changes. Like if only the Nginx config changes, that only affects 5 of the servers, not 10,000. So you can do selective deployment. So finding the right scale and complexity sometimes might be tricky, but Prex could help with bringing its flexibility to this complex topic.
Okay, let's go back to the code now, because
Yes.
that was our main goal.
Yes, just to quickly react or answer to some of your points you mentioned. You mentioned that you created the DigitalOcean droplets, like all the cloud instances by hand. And I think you mentioned that this is not the task for Rex, maybe later. So for that, it's definitely possible to do it with Rex. I'm not sure if anyone wrote or published a DigitalOcean module for Rex, but the basics for managing cloud instances are in core. I think Amazon and OpenStack instances in core. I haven't used them in a while, I have to admit that, but it's extensible with modules, right? So I assume DigitalOcean has an API, so there might be even already a CPAM module to talk to that API, and it could be matched together with the Rex API about like creating instances, creating networks, deploying the SSH keys and so on. So yeah, as you can see, others already wrote that. So if there's interest, we can try to create that. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that this is possible, like it already does similar things with local virtual machines during testing, like VirtualBox and KVM machines are supported currently. And for testing, that's exactly what it does. Creates a new instance, discovers the IP, and then logs in via SSH to run tasks. So that's definitely possible later to automate it completely if you want.
Okay.
The next one was SyncUp. SyncUp is interesting because there's also a pair of it called SyncDown, I believe, and also a slightly different command called sync. And the history of that is interesting for me because initially I think only sync was there, which uses rsync in the background. But since rsync is not available on all the platforms Rex is supposed to run on, for example, on Windows, kind of replacement for that was built by the original author. So it's pretty old code there, and that is called this sync up and sync down, which is like syncing files up from the current machine, right, where Rex runs to the remote, or syncing down files.
Yeah.
And that was made just like emulating, and not even rsync, just the subset that is
just
needed.
copy files.
Yeah. So that's one thing to know about it. It's definitely handy if you have to sync multiple files, right? Like you found it. Otherwise, you would need to, I don't know, write a data structure and iterate over all the elements and call file on each of them. There, the argument order with these commands, we call it commands inside Rex, tries to follow whatever would be the command line equivalent of similar commands, meaning that, for example, there's a cp command for the command line copy command, which is also called cp. So the argument order follows that. So it fits into that pattern to have the source target, source target, source target. And that's why it had to be named like sync up and sync down, which signifies the direction because it's always source target, source target. The other difference there between file and sync up, we did not go into this last time, but it might be worth to mention, is that file is much more of, I mean, I would call file more like a resource and not a command. one telltale sign of it is the presence of the ensure option, because and the main difference is like basically idempotency, right? Which means if you call sync up multiple times, it will always sync up all the files. But file first checks whether this file is already there or not, or has the same content as expected or not, and then decides if it needs to do something, right? So there's a slight difference between the behavior. So that's also slight difference in the syntax between the two style of management. This all boils down to imperative versus declarative style of management, right? You declare the state you want to ensure on the remote host, or you just give commands to run this. I don't care about the current state.
Okay.
There are also other differences between commands and resources. For example, resources are reported, which means you can ask Rex to write an audit trail of any changes it is making. So sometimes you have to, keep a strict log of that. Like at this point in time, Rex logged in and went to this file, had to change and checksum changed from A to B, or it had to be created, and so on. And it can save it for you. So resources do that. Commands are just like, no, it's just I'm the command, I just run and I'm out of here.
So it doesn't even write down that in the audit log that I executed this command?
No, it might still log, but that's not the audit log.
Okay.
Right. So so there are also other uses or other differences between commands and resources. Also, the resource interface is under a bit of change. There's a proposal from the original author to have a much more generic resource interface, so we can define resources on our own much more easily and in a much more uniform way. But it's not implemented yet. There's a pending PR maybe with some experimental code, but it's not there yet. And I just wanted to mention that basically the future is to have a much more unified experience with resources, even though it's already possible to create your own resources even, and so on. We just want to make it much nicer in the long run. For now, it's enough to know that there's this distinction. Something is a resource, something is a command.
Okay.
All right. And that was also related to the argument order, right? Because with resources, you are naming the resource with the first argument, which in case of the file resource is the name of the file, it's the full path to it, and then declare all the options you want to be ensured. All right. Scalar versus list context for run. That's an interesting one. I will make a note to take a closer look at the current behavior, because you seem to have some kind of issue with for between say and run. And I also remember that on one of our first trials, it was working as expected, so I'm not sure what changed exactly.
Yeah.
But the point is that
upgraded in the meantime. So
yeah, so I have to take a look at that. Like with any other software, there could be bugs, but the important thing is that run returns the output of the remote command. And depending on Scalar or list context, it could be slightly differently formatted. Because in list context, you can iterate over the output line by line. That's why we try to write, say, for run something, something. And in Scalar context, you just get one long string and you have to format it on your own, or decide if you want to interpolate the new lines or something like that. That's interesting. Oh no, you got it. Okay.
So on the command line like this, it worked,
Mm-hmm.
but here.
And not there inside. That's interesting.
Do I need to put run here? Is it good that I put run inside the?
It looks formally correct or syntactically correct. Maybe if you could just copy paste the exact same from the command line, just to exclude any differences.
What is this -a? I don't know. Maybe that was the problem.
It's also the Q is missing in the code. I think you just put the.
Yeah, maybe the problem was the -a, that I have no idea what was there. Check.
And yeah, maybe it only wrote to standard error, so you only got the error output, so it was not showing it under standard circumstances. Maybe, I don't know, but
yeah, it works.
Yeah, okay. I was a bit worried that, oh my, there might be some weird bug appearing under some circumstances.
All lines are listed. Okay, so it because I wanted. So the point is, okay, remember, -a gives also the dot, the hidden directories. And that's why I wanted it. So let me try it again. Maybe let's just see this.
Just make sure it's not like, I don't know, 5 GB on the output.
Sorry?
It's gonna take. Just make sure that the output is not 5 GB or something, because that's going to take a while.
Right.
But
no, it's just yeah. So now it worked. And I think the only difference was that we had single quotes here. No, wait a second. I'm using scalar here. Of course it worked.
Yeah, let's make sure we run exactly the same.
Okay. Yeah, so something is not working here. Because now they are, I think, they are really the same.
All right.
Save.
You're definitely, yeah. It looks you're running the same. I'm not sure what might be the exact difference in the context. So yeah, I have to look into that separately.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you want to go deeply into that.
No. Just tried it in the background. Yeah. Okay. So it works.
Yeah, I mean, in the background, it could depend on many different layers of things, because it goes through one or the other SSH.
Forget about
in the background.
Yeah, no, forget about that. I meant in the background of our conversation.
No, it should work. It's very interesting that you found this. It definitely looks like a bug, so should be fixed. But I haven't seen that behavior before, so
okay,
I should check.
So can we deal with this? The get dist upgrade?
Yes. So for that, if you can go on metacpan to the documentation of Rex commands package, Rex commands pkg.
Commands
and pkg. Not J. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's where you can also find this update package DB command.
Okay.
Yeah, there's update. If you go to the table of contents on the top, you can also see a lot of options. So there's update package DB.
Yeah, we have that.
Which you found, yeah. And this is documented that it will just sync the local repository info with upstream. And there's a pair of it is update system.
Okay.
And that will run the system upgrade, like update all packages.
So instead of this?
Yes.
Instead of the, okay.
Yes, and you don't need the reboot as well.
Sorry?
You can also comment out the reboot. Yeah.
Because it will reboot, or because I need to write?
No, it will not. It will not reboot. It will just update the system.
Okay, so how can I tell it to reboot?
We are going to write a task for that below. I think you already had a reboot task. Yeah, we are going to fix that.
Okay.
But yeah, I thought you wanted to run the upgrade, but we can switch to the reboot stuff.
So I think I already ran it. Was this upgrade? You remember? Upgrade? No. Update. Okay.
Yeah, it might take a while. Until then, I think I can go into a bit of details for the reboot. So
okay, wait a second.
Reboot,
I'll just stop it for now. I create a new one. So we can, because now everything is just like in the background. So I'll just run this here, and then I can open the editor in the here. Okay. So while it's working, we can also look at the code. How do you set language? Just language. Perl.
Set
Right.
syntax Perl or something like that. I think you need set syntax equals Perl. I think.
Set syntax equal Perl. I don't do it often. Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I have a Vim configuration line that just does it for Rex files.
Okay.
And maybe if you have Perl tidy installed, you can just Perl tidy the whole file. That might make it a bit more readable.
Run Perl tidy on this one? That's what
yes,
you're
it's
saying?
just per code. I usually run it directly from Vim. I have a shortcut for that, but like whatever works for you.
Perl tidy on the Rex file.
I think maybe it's -d to note. Okay. I'm not sure. I haven't used it from the command line. I think that's the Rex file.tidy now, because we wanted to overwrite this, right? Yeah. Yeah. That's what I meant.
What did they do? Okay, so I really want to see what did it do. It gives I see some indentation inside.
And yeah,
I
all options
broke it down to the parameters.
Yes, all options are on a new line, so it's easy to comment them out or add new ones.
Rex file tidy to Rex file.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I open this and set syntax to Perl.
Yeah.
Okay.
In general, I find this a bit more readable, and we started to add enough code to versus conversion.
So let's reboot.
Even with just the default Perl tidy options. There are, of course, gazillions of options to fine tune to your liking.
Okay.
But anyway,
in the meantime, we got an error.
All right. So there was an error. We can try to debug that. So the update system had an error. Maybe you can try to run it with -d for debug output.
This one?
Yeah, but also as you can see, it was just a warning. So probably something unexpected happened, but it could still finish successfully. We might be able to read more detailed. As you can see, it's quite verbose in the debug mode.
Should have debugged into a file,
yeah.
No?
You can scroll back now. I think I've already seen the command that it tried to run. But sure, you can also redirect it.
Could not lock.
Yeah, because it was not running as root, maybe, or another process is holding it. Yeah. So there's already an apt-get running, so it cannot get the log.
Okay,
So
why would another one running? Okay, so let's just reboot the server, okay?
All right.
Maybe I Control Z, run it, and I pressed Control Z on it, and it's stuck there, or so just remove the restart the server now.
Or daily unattended upgrades through or so on. Yeah, for the reboot, what we basically need to do is first issue the command called reboot or
Wait
shut
a second.
down.
So there was wait a second. There was a question if when it's doing the reboot, if there is a display the output of the update. So basically, the debug mode actually will do it. Is there something that will only do this?
I think the question is more about like when it updated 5 packages to print the name of the 5 packages or even version info or so on. And by default, no, the update system command does not print anything. It might worth checking the return value of it, but I would need to read the code for that. And if the difference between packages before and after would be interesting, I would just store it in a data structure with get installed packages, and I store it in a list or a hash with versions or something like that, and compare the data structures before and after. The built-in itself does not report this.
Okay. So we'll keep updates on the question if there are more updates on the question. So just tell us.
Yeah, sure. Also just to underline the framework nature of it, it's like not everybody needs to do that. So if somebody needs to do that, there are building blocks to do that easily. For example, with get installed packages call before and after and compare on your own. If somebody has to do that often, it can be split out and refactored into a function, right? And it can also be shared with others via the same code base or put onto cpan if it's needed and so on.
What was the command that you suggested? Get, maybe it's
I think you still have the documentation open and installed packages. No, 3 lines down.
Installed packages.
Installed packages, yes.
Okay.
And the installed packages gives you back a data structure. It's already a hash with name, version, and other.
Okay, it's all the packages.
Parameters. Yes.
Those that
and
were
then,
so all even those that came with the installation, original installation, I guess, right?
Yes. Like what's the state of the machine? What's the list of all installed packages?
Okay.
And also some metadata like version or whatever is available depending on the system. Sometimes the architecture is important or stable versus testing is important. Sometimes it's not. It all depends on what operating system you manage, right? We manage Ubuntu, so there's a set of built-ins. If you want, you can try to dump that data structure, but then there are also many different modules to compare data structures on cpan. So whatever fits best, that's what it does. So
okay.
Just to also make a complete answer with one more thought to this. Theoretically, of course, it could be made part of the core system, but that would also make that there would be a central decision about this is how you must represent changes or report changes. Inside Xcode, we try to avoid decisions like that because we cannot foresee all the different use cases for that. So that's where more like the building blocks are there to do this easily, but not trying to force any behavior because that's already would be a tool and not a framework.
Yeah, well,
in my opinion. Yeah.
Okay.
Reboot. So we need to run the reboot command, which is either reboot or shutdown -r now.
Okay.
Then we also need to wait for SSH to be reachable again, right, from the outside, which means that the network card is already up, it had an IP, it has a proper connection, SSH service is running, and it's reachable over the network, right? So firewall, everything is in place.
Yeah.
And at that point, we want to reestablish the connection.
Yeah.
For that, I'm going to link quite quick way to do that. And I think it does even more than we want to. It's snippet from GitHub. I posted it in the chat now, if you can open it. That's not from me, that's from the original author of Rex. As you can see, there's a command called simple check, which does what the name says. It's just a simple check if a port is reachable. So this already does something like that.
So what do? I just copy this whole thing here.
Yeah, but I want to point out this is how we wait for a system to come back. It does not include the reboot part.
Yeah. So it says it's just a function that will wait for the system to, it gets the server somehow. Okay.
Yes, we pass the server name to it because it's just a subroutine. It's not a full task, right? Okay. So we can, as you can see, it does more than you expect. We probably don't need to sleep 30 with the DigitalOcean droplet and so on.
Yeah.
So
and it would, I would probably also, so I don't need to sleep at all. I can just start, it will wait, right?
Exactly. And then you probably also not necessarily need the second sleep. It was there to make sure that, I don't know, Nginx and the database and whatever is running on the machine has properly started up, which might take time. So yeah, we can use it as a subroutine.
And so we can, here I say wait, and I give it the, how do I give the name of the server?
We need to get whatever is the current host name, right? And we can get it through the connection object. Let me look up the exact syntax for that. Oh yeah, the current server is queryable via connection and arrow server, right? So that's the connection object server method.
Okay, and I see that this is how we can log something.
Yep.
Okay, well, it is going to log it, okay.
So yeah, you can store it into my $current server or something.
Yeah,
like that.
But I see that it's already logging here, so
yeah,
I don't need. Okay, so let's try this, the reboot.
Yeah, we can try this, and we already started to wander into a slightly different territory.
Sorry?
We started to wander into slightly different territory, which is more like how to combine things, write subroutines, and so on. Did you run this one?
I ran reboot.
Okay.
It says can't authenticate against.
Yeah, I think we might need to do a bit more dance around that. Yeah. So could you go back to the code, please? I think the problem is as soon as I disconnect during a running task, that connection is lost. So Rex just bails out.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to write some orchestration around it. We basically need a task that calls reboot task, which then returns, and then we trigger the waiting and then trigger the continue.
Okay, so we can from a task we can start a new task.
No, we can write all the tasks separately, and then the coordinating task on the top level can call each of those in sequence.
Okay, yeah, well, that's so wait a second. This I can make like this. I make this. This is like the task real. Can I have this reboot? And then this somehow calls. Wait, no, this is just calling this one, and this one. And this one is calling the task reboot, something like this.
Yes, but that's not the exact syntax.
Well, I thought so, but
yeah, I tried to figure out an easy way, but I think we went into slightly advanced topics because we have to manipulate the connection stack and so on.
If you think that it's a bit too advanced for now, then we can just actually go back to what we originally planned.
Yeah, I was also got a bit frustrated about that. Like we wanted to start with the Nginx stuff.
Okay. So
and
shall
now
we go back to
we are
Nginx?
already spent an hour looking into these extras.
Okay. So
I mean, it's your call. We can try to figure out the reboot and then come back to the original topics next time, or we continue with that one. I'm fine with both.
Let's go with the Nginx. I think that's like
all right.
Nginx, and then installing on different operating systems. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want, I can get more prepared for next time for the reboot example, and I think we will also be in a better situation to introduce this orchestrate between many different tasks and subroutines.
Okay, I didn't realize it's gonna be harder.
No, it's fine.
Okay, so I actually prepared, and actually with your help, this is the first part of what we had. There's another one, the other file that also has the elk part, but let's just focus on the first part. Actually, this is the what we did so far. Okay, the preparing of the setup, and then the first thing that we wanted to do on the server is to switch from to the latest Rex from CPAN.
Yep.
Okay, so let me. I'll quit this one. I SSH to this machine because so far I was working on my own. Okay, and now I won't. Okay, maybe we killed the machine.
You already triggered the reboot command, I believe,
and it still didn't come back.
Yeah, and meanwhile, I just looked up another gist from GitHub. That's a much more complete example of doing all this dance around reboot. So maybe that should be wrapped up into a module for next time and published on CPAN or something like that.
Sorry?
No, I just posted a second link in the chat if you want to open that does the whole dance around the rebooting.
Okay, I'll check out in a second, but we have to get back the machine first. As it says, it seems that the CPU is like working hard. So I guess I have to just turn it off and turn it on again. Because I couldn't connect to it. So okay, in the meantime, I can open the other window as well, other link. Okay, so it says
that's a much more complete example.
Okay.
As you can see, it involves multiple servers and checking the server status and so on, which is probably a bit more specific to that use case it was written for. But as you can see, there's some more advanced topics mentioned here. Grouping servers, we wanted to cover that today with the inventories. There's also the no SSH prefix on line 12. which is like, yeah, just run it, but I don't need to SSH anywhere. That would be your target for a coordinating task, right? The coordinating task has to remain on the local machine, and just another task should go there, reboot, return, because it executed the reboot. And with the local task, we have to wait for the connection. And when it's done, we have to connect again.
Okay.
So that's what it does. It coordinates between many little steps. And again, that's the framework nature of it. Yeah, maybe this is a good candidate to put even into core, probably, but definitely into a module, so you can just pull it in.
I would think that something like that, the reboot, the remote server should be like, it's such a, I think it's a basic thing relatively, but
Yeah.
something that people have hard time to figure out.
Yes, I think definitely some kind of boilerplate around that would be helpful. Also, on the other hand, it can get very complex easily, because if you have to check, I don't know, the load balancer first and go make another check for the monitoring system, if it saves time to reboot, or set up maintenance period first, or send out a notification 10 minutes before.
No. What I
mean,
it
can get complex,
yeah,
but
what I mean
itself,
that just the reboot. So this code, okay, this will call, it will reboot this machine and call back something when it's up. Okay, and then what is up is you can define whether you can ping it or you can SSH to it. It's basically, these are two levels. And then once you know how to SSH to it, then this already, the user's task is to check on the remote server whether, let's say, the web server is already up, and only then continue. The basic thing that Rex is operational. I mean, can talk to the server. Basically, that's what I think that the minimum should be.
Yes, and at the core, that's what this long example does, plus some extras, because it stops services, then applies patches, then reboots the host, then waits for comeback, and then checks services running again. For the core of it, we might only need the reboot host and wait for comeback. Yeah, no, I'm just bothered that I couldn't give you a quick example. I was completely unprepared for that. And my brain will keep working on that for sure.
Yeah, sorry, and we don't know how to connect to the machine.
All right, that's interesting. So you turned it off and it's still not come back?
I turn it off, turn it on. I even turned it on, and it's still not working.
Okay, in the chat, it is suggested to use the console interface on DigitalOcean and then access. Whoa.
Kernel panic.
You know what could have happened? Just a theory. We know that the apt-get was in progress, so maybe something was in the middle of upgrading and then we rebooted in the middle of that process. And now
the server is dead.
Cannot mount the root FS. Yeah, I think we should create a new one.
Okay. So
restore from backup.
Okay, at least we can start the Rex. Okay. So I'm going back to experiments. This one, CodeMaven Rex. It was called destroy. Interesting. And I'm creating a new one, a droplet. This one, it was a New York one. It's my user because it's a management. It's CodeMaven Rex. Shall I give it another name so we'll know that we are on the new one? No. No need, right?
It should be fine.
Sorry?
I think it should be fine.
Yeah. It seems every time we start doing this, we have some issue. Okay. So we can SSH to this machine much faster than to the previous one. Okay.
Maybe it was very busy upgrading the previous one.
So, what were the commands? I forgot. So we had the first thing. Okay, I don't even need to look at here, right? I can just say -t, and it will give me the list.
Exactly.
And I can say install Rex, right? That was the one thing that we wanted to do.
Yeah, and I think I know how I will take my own brain out of the reboot cycle about the reboot. And that is, I will post a short snippet to do that on your website after the session. Like last time I answered all the questions, I will do the same.
Wrong IP address in the meantime.
All right.
I was just trying with the old IP address.
That's why DNS is useful.
Sorry?
That's why DNS can be useful.
Well, yeah. Okay, so I also need to do the configure Rex thing. And the check Rex, this one, it needs these ones.
Yeah.
Because I commented out because I mean, this should be probably two separate things. The installation of tree and the running of.
Yeah, it depends on what you want to do. That's also one style, especially for these very short scopes, where you just want to make sure that tree is available for your next command. That's
yeah,
fine.
but these take time now. These two.
The update package db takes time, yes, because it has to sync.
Yeah.
But also on the command line, you can run more than one tasks after each other.
Mm-hmm. Can I check? Okay, wait a second. I could actually here check if tree is already installed, and if it's not, then only then run the update package, right?
Yes, if you want.
Yeah, I mean, let me just write the pseudo code for it. So here it is installed. So something like this
is a helper for that. Yes.
So this is basically this is what I need, right?
Yes.
And I didn't copy it. Okay, I don't know how to copy paste anymore. At this time, okay. So if not Rex, this is if tree, if basically this is what like if tree not installed, then so yeah, well, whatever. Basically, this would basically do it, right?
Yeah, but before you execute that, let's just stop for a moment. I mean, what I feel weird is that we check for package presence to decide whether we want to run get update. To me, that feels a bit weird.
Can I check whether it's available? Look, not that. So I only need to run this update package because it hasn't been executed and at all. So the question, if I can check somehow that that I could install tree. Basically, that's my question here. That would be the probably the nice thing here.
It's like, okay, what it will do, checks if the tree, checks if there's a package installed that is called a tree. If not, it will run apt-get update and then install tree.
Yeah. What I would,
if it's already installed, it will skip that.
What I would really want to do is to run update package db if tree, if it hasn't been synced at any time.
Yes, and if you have a command to check that, we can write the logic for that. But that's what I also meant by let's stop for a moment, because it feels like a different check than
yeah. Right? So maybe I can I check whether the tree package is available? There is a command for that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I can search for packages.
Yes, you can run a apt search tree or something like that, I guess.
Yeah, and if it fails, then it's either because tree is not available, but we know that tree is available. So this is a real package. So if tree is not available, it means to us that it's not right or whatever.
Yes.
No, not do it now. Just thinking aloud what could be done.
Yes, or since you, I think, run update package db already with install rex, you can just rely on your ordering.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what should be the right thing here. So check rex, but we wanted to do configure rex first.
Yeah, so my point there was that you can actually pass multiple task names to the same command line and it will execute it in order. So you don't have to do it one task, second task, third task, but one call does all three in that order. And meanwhile, I also quickly opened up the documentation. As you can see, even as a maintainer, I do that a lot because I cannot hold the whole information in my head.
Of course.
The update system command does have an on-change hook, which can be used, for example, to list what packages were changed. So that might be easier than the before-after getting the list of installed packages and compare the data structure changes. It was asked before on the chat, that's why I wanted to mention.
Can you say it again, please, so we can write it down?
Yes, so the question was, can we make update system to print or somehow report the list of packages it has changed? And I just linked for the documentation for update system. And previously I suggested to get a list of installed packages before and after the operation of update system and compare the data structures.
Oh, interesting.
But if you open this documentation page, can you show it, Gabo? Yeah, there, right there.
On change, okay.
Update system has an on change
modified
hook,
packages.
And by default, it gets passed in the list of modified packages. Same data structure as we discovered before for installed packages, right?
Yeah.
So it might be a nicer way to hook into that process.
Yeah.
While it's of course totally possible to do it outside this logic and just before and after get the data structure and compare it. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So let me get back here. Okay, so we get this, and we see that there are the SSH the public keys here. Sorry, the private key is here. The config file is here. The infrastructure is. Okay, so we are back basically to where we wanted to start an hour and a half ago. Okay.
Yeah, I think we have a different agenda for today, but it's good because we could go into all these different notes and questions that you had.
Okay.
Maybe just to show it on the command line, would you like to try running the 3 tasks with one command, which means install rex space configure rex space check rex? That would run them in this order.
Okay.
And that's where, again, these task dependencies or even batches come into picture. That if you have to write a very long list of tasks each time you have to provision a server, you can just create one task that you call, for example, provision, or I like to call it converge, which does nothing else than just coordinates these various tasks it has to run.
Yeah.
For a server to be initialized for the first use.
Okay.
And then this pattern can be even used to make fully idempotent, right? And anytime I can just run a single command and it will figure it out what to do. So that's very powerful. That's why I wanted to mention.
Okay.
All right.
It wants me to install all kind of stuff, but we won't do that now. Okay. So installing Rex from cpan.
Yes. So right now you already have Rex installed, right?
Yeah.
But from apt. So what's the version from apt?
Sorry? About the
Rex -v is 181 or something like that.
Yeah, 181.
Okay. Okay. So normally you can just run cpan rex or cpan mrex, whatever client you prefer. But we are running as root and we are going to install it system-wide, which might not be the practice you would like to follow.
Okay.
Hence my question: do you want to build a local lib for rex or per brew or something like that? That's a bit outside the scope again.
I think we should install. Shall I create a new user just for this?
Or you can also put it into a user, exactly, yeah. But then you have to carry over all the keys and config files. It's more like just, do you want to mix cpan code with system code?
Yeah, I know, but maybe add user, we just create a new user for now, okay?
I'm fine with that.
Is that user? That's how you would do it. I always mix up add user and user add. Like one of them is a wrapper around the other one, but I
it's never. A good question. I would probably write Rex code to do that because I also don't remember.
Yeah, but just now imagine I'll probably will do that afterwards. But now it's sure. Our management server, so we are doing it manually because. Okay, so.
Okay. So I don't necessarily meant creating a new user.
Just tell me what to do, and I'm going to do it. Okay, now I will have a new user if you really want, but
I mean, yeah, that's good to have a different user, but we then have to carry over all the SSH keys from root. We also have to solve the authentication and the privilege escalation on the managed remotes and so on via sudo. So I did not want to go there exactly, but I was asking, do we want to separate cpan per code and system per code? That's usually a good idea.
Yes, but I don't think that I want to compile a new per for that. I would just install it in a home in a separate directory.
So we don't want to do it now. You just want to cpan mrex and that's it, right? And we don't care about this mix. Okay. That's a way. It just
I
has
would,
to
I
be
know,
a system.
what I was saying is that I would prefer to have it in my lib directory, in my local, so that cpan-m won't install in root Perl. I would use the system Perl, but I would install in a private directory all the modules with local lib, basically.
Yeah, so we can do that. For that, we have to set up local lib, and then we can do that already.
You want to tell me what to do?
I think the man page of local lib has copy pastable instructions, so we can do that. So this is just about separating the Perl libraries that are getting installed through apt and cpan, just to reiterate for the viewers.
I probably need to install Perl first. Whatever. They don't seem to have. Oh,
Perl is there. Local lib is not there.
That's really strange.
Apt install local lib. I don't know how the package is called. Lib local lib Perl. All right.
Whatever.
That's quite a few.
That's really strange, this whole thing. But why do I need to install LWP? Then I can install also LWP.
No, you don't have to install that. We just have to. So now we have local lib installed, and if you go back to the documentation, we can find. I'm also trying to open it. Yeah, we can find something like that, exactly how to set it up. We have to eval all that, right? And make sure that it's in bash rc or something like that. Just following the install instructions. I have to open documentation.
Okay, this one. So hopefully if I log in again, now I have local lib, right?
Yes, you can run env or printenv exactly to check your environment.
Per
local
lib
root.
Okay.
Yep. So I think if you run cpan-m rex now, it will install it. If we have cpan minus.
We don't have cpan minus.
Let's install cpan minus too. Then. Apt install cpan minus.
That's also with this, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine to use the system packages. We just want to separate the install locations depending on the source. I think it's just cpan minus.
That's it?
Yep.
Nice. Okay.
And then cpan-m rex. So that way, the rex we install from cpan will be installed under the /root directory. We need more packages for it. It's a very bare bones system.
Build essentials, right?
Something like that, yeah.
With a different spelling.
Yeah. So
almost
packages packages we install from cPanel will go into a local directory, and it will not overwrite the files, like Rex files that were installed from apt. That's why we make this locally.
Okay, I have no.
It's just build essential, not essential zep. So it's singular instead of plural.
Yeah,
For no
thank
reason.
you.
All right. So if I understand correctly, some dependencies of Rex does require the use of make. And I think that would be libxml or something like that.
Yeah, libxml. Oh, if you
So
need
maybe,
if you need libxml, then well. But the thing is that most of you need make because not because of the compiler, because Perl makefile make. So for everything basically.
and that too. Yeah, sure.
So you don't
that,
necessarily need the compiler here.
Right.
You just need make.
Right. I just started to think about whether we will run into some dependency packages that might need
Other libraries, headers,
yes.
whatever.
Yes,
Probably not,
probably
because
some headers we'll see.
it's only if the diff, the changes of Rex will require that. If something was upgraded, because all the others are already installed.
Yes,
I don't
exactly.
understand why do we need now test capture tiny, for example, unless you need it for testing, or if you you need a newer version, right, than what we had earlier, or if the old Rex didn't use capture type. So
I think
okay,
that
we are
might
already
be.
at Rex.
It's not even Rex's direct dependency, but a module that is used by Rex needs capture tiny, probably for tests. For example, test deep, maybe.
Yeah, it's quite likely.
Or test output. Sorry, test output sounds like definitely a module like, testing the output of commands. And for that, we have to capture the output. And for that, capture tiny.
Okay.
Sounds like fitting.
Rex -3.
Excellent.
Yeah. Okay.
So latest and greatest. That feels good.
And we have the infra directory here, and we can use here Rex -t, and we can say Rex. Okay, what were the names? Okay, Rex -h ubu1 print host name, actually ubu1 2. And yes. And yes. Okay, so now we have the two machines. Okay. And this is, I think, the IP of one of them. And welcome to Rex is there. Okay, cool. Because I already ran this.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. I don't know why it's asked for. Oh, I ran it when it was the old management machine. And that's why it asked for the writing down the SSH, the fingerprints. Okay. So that already ran. The other one I didn't run. Okay. So if you visit the other one, if I manage to copy the other IP address, okay, then this one doesn't answer. Okay, because there is no, I didn't run it on that one.
Yeah, so okay. Not even Nginx is there. Cool.
Okay, so switch switch from, okay, this one is done. Create droplets using Fedora, so different operating systems. That's one thing. The other thing was that deploy the web server with our page on each one of them. Okay. Yes. And then introducing templates. We have like half an hour if you take the whole time. Would you want to do this in this order?
I think we can do that. Yes, it was also explicitly asked after the first session to show how we can deal with different operating systems. And at the core of it, that's what Rex does as abstractions for you.
So shall I create machines here?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Whatever different systems than Ubuntu.
Okay, so a FreeBSD, let's start with a Fedora.
Yeah.
Okay, a Fedora.
Okay, is there an operating system that has the exact same package names and the exact same service names as Ubuntu? Which is
that's what you want?
So
you want the Debian?
For example, Debian. Let's do Debian first. Okay, that should be Debian. Exactly named the same.
Okay.
Because
that's easier, probably.
Yeah, I think that's a good first example.
Okay.
Because while we wait for the droplet creation, I just wanted to quickly introduce the idea of this abstraction. The package resource, like what we wrote, package nginx Azure present, does a few things in the background. And first, it relies on the information what Rex discovered upon connection to determine which operating system is this, right? So Rex makes the SSH connection, runs a lot of commands to discover, did I end up on Ubuntu or Gentoo or Fedora or FreeBSD? And based on that information, it can choose one or other package management module to do this abstraction, because on Ubuntu and Debian, it would need to run apt-get install or apt-install. On Fedora, I think it's yum, right?
Yeah.
On Gentoo, it's emerge. And don't even remember what it is on FreeBSD. But that abstraction is coded in these package management modules.
So I took, in the meantime, I added it to the host file.
Thank you.
Brilliantly code again, deb1 instead of deb-1. Okay.
All right. So yeah, if the package name is the same, and between Debian and Ubuntu, we know it should be the same. The exact same code should work.
So first of all, I should be able to use here
space
deb1.
Yeah.
And it will probably ask me this one, yes. And it's called deb-1. Okay, so that's why now remember, that's the reason we called it differently. Okay, so we can display this that it's actually it doesn't just say us that you code it that way. Okay, and obviously in real production code that you would probably use the same names. Okay, and then so this was the print host name -t, and we wanted to set up on the deb1 now. Also set up nginx. Okay, and they didn't like me.
We probably need to run update package db. But you can also try to run debug output first.
Okay, so
yeah. No. Okay. So you either install you either insert update package db into Rex file or go to the debug output first. But I'm pretty sure that there's one missing. Both are fine. The -d should go to the front.
I tried.
It's a parameter for. The difference is whether -d should be interpreted as a parameter for Rex itself or for the task itself. Error, yeah, unable to locate package Nginx. Yeah, because we need update package
So
db.
I don't remember the command here.
In setup Nginx, update underscore package underscore db. Yep.
Okay. So for some reason we missed it in the file, but probably I added it or removed it at one point. It's unclear to me why it's not there.
And done.
No, I know why it's not there, but okay. Anyway. This is, and HTTP. Welcome to Nginx. Okay. Yep. And now the other one.
No. So if you put -d there, it's a option for setup Nginx task. Yeah. Now it's an option for Rex.
But it should give me different things, because there was also a configure. Okay. Now, because there was the name.
Yeah, but you explicitly wrote setup Nginx, so asked it to list the task called setup Nginx. Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah,
I don't have an argument with it. Okay. Good. So it worked on this one as well. Let's go on. We are on a roll now. I'm just creating machines here.
Yes, because just notice what we did with the switch. We started to reuse all the code we wrote last time instead of trying to write new code from the scratch for a different purpose. So that's why we progress slowly first, I think. Anyway, so you can add more. Fedora, if you have CentOS, it would be nice. We have a request for that in the chat. Is CentOS available?
I'm checking it. I'm creating also the CentOS if it's available. Here it is.
Yeah, let's do one CentOS and FreeBSD. Okay, now I will explain a bit while we wait for the Droplets to be created and Gabor to set up the SSH config file. As I mentioned before, there are different package management modules that are chosen by Rex dynamically during the run based on which type of machine it ended up connecting to. So normally, packages like Nginx are called Nginx everywhere, but that's not always the case. For example, it could be that it is Nginx common somewhere else, or maybe if you think about NTP, it could be called NTP or NTPD based on distribution. So obviously Rex doesn't know about these differences because it's the decision of the distribution, right? But Rex does know about which package manager to use. The same is true for services as well. So sometimes, I don't know, if you install Apache, sometimes the service is called Apache or Apache 2 or HTTPD based on which operating system you use. Again, Rex knows which service management software to use, whether it's systemd or OpenRC or Upstart or etc init files and so on. But Rex does not know about the naming differences in the different operating systems, which means if there's such a difference for the interesting packages for our automation project, we have to hint Rex about that, for example, with a lookup table, like if Debian, use Nginx, if Fedora, use something else. So that's what I try to do now. See with the new hosts if there are such differences in the package naming. And if yes, just create a lookup table with a hash or something. And make the code more dynamic. And I think Gabor is in the final steps. That's good.
I'm just checking if I wrote the names. So fed one, sent one, and free one. This is how I call them here locally.
Okay.
And for now, it's just print host name. There's no Perl. Okay.
Yeah, some. That's going to be again interesting. Some operating system does not ship with a full Perl installation.
So these all three failed, right?
No, it just warned that it was successful. No, it was successful.
No, fed, send. Sorry. Okay. So
yeah, but no failures. Okay. It's a warning, right? So all tasks successful. The warning is about Rex tried to determine and discover the location of the Perl interpreter, but it failed to do that. So it's not in pass or not installed. It's important for it because if Perl is available, it can make different decisions about how to implement things on the remote, right? So things might still work. It just cannot use Perl to do that. It has to rely on something else.
Okay.
So what you could do is copy paste all these hosts, because you started to write 5 different things for 6 different hosts, and just create a group, a host group called, I don't know, all or everything in the Rex file.
In the config file?
In the Rex file, yes.
In the Rex file.
Yep. So if you just go to the very top.
I guess I can copy the names from here, right?
I wanted to copy it from the command line.
Okay.
But you can copy it from here. I don't care. But you already have written it out. No. From -h. Sorry, I was not specific enough. Yeah, just that. And in the Rex file, at the very top, between the use and desk, just start writing group.
Before or after?
Yeah, one line below. Yeah, and maybe even one empty line above to have a visual separation. Yeah, thank you. And I don't know if you want to call it all or everything or whatever, it's fine. And then a fat comma. And then just, so I think you can put that into QW, right? Like quote word.
Okay.
Or just have a comma separated list of them. That's also good. I think, yeah. So
and the square brackets work well here.
We can see what it thinks about it. It might think it's a literal hostname like that, but let's just save, go to the command line and ask with rex -t.
Okay. So how do I run this now? The hostname for now.
Save rex -t. Just check. We don't run anything. Just rex -t for task names. Because it will, yeah, okay, so it prints it. So if you run rex -g, uppercase G for group, all, that's the group name, and I don't know, task name, which is configure nginx or print host name. Okay, so it recognized the shorthand notation. That's what I was wondering about. See, so it's much easier to type this. We started to have 6 nodes with, yeah, 5 different words to describe them. So this is the basics of inventory.
Okay.
And you can create as much host groups as you want with the same notation inside the Rex file. You can also write code to generate this for you. That's all good. So if you have to take it from an inventory system, write a Perl code, API code, do it.
That's great.
So now you wanted to, I mean, let's assume it's called Nginx in each package manager. So maybe that just works.
Okay.
It will complain if there's no package named Nginx, and then we know we have to go investigate and write the code.
Does this now run sequentially, or can we?
Yes. No, it's sequential.
Can we tell it to run in parallel?
Yes. If you want, you can cancel the run.
Okay.
And if you run rex minus half or help.
I just want, but I don't think that's a good idea to print these warnings here.
Yeah.
Okay.
That should work on.
So how do I run?
Yeah, I mean, you're totally right. We totally should just catch the signal right from Control-C and terminate in more graceful fashion. But that's fine.
Okay.
So rex minus h for help. And there's this parallelism at the end. Yeah, minus t for number of threads to use. That's a very interesting feature for me because it can support quite different, so it can support quite different parameters. One is stating it explicitly, run on 6 threads in parallel. But it can also take different parameters like max for maximum. So whatever amount of hosts it is supposed to run against, it will just maximize it. So if it's 100 hosts, it will open 100 connections. There's also, for example, max/2 or /3 for dividing the maximum by 2 or 3 to run in smaller batches. But it can also support max 10% and stuff like that. So just to be aware of this.
Where is this? Can you show me the documentation for this?
Yes, it's in a Rex commands page. The command is called parallelism.
Okay, so it's parallelism.
Yes, no. Rex commands. That was good. Yeah. Control F to search. There's quite a few commands. There's parallelism and count.
Okay.
And that's where all the various notations. Because we specified it on the command line, that's fine for overriding whatever is in the Rex file, where we have nothing, so the default is 1. But you can hard-code it into a Rex file, like please always do 10% because you are not supposed to touch all machines at once.
Yeah.
Even then, you can override it on the command line, right? But the default is just to respect these limitations.
Okay. So,
and as you can see, it was called Nginx everywhere, apparently. On 4 machines, it installed it. On 2, we already had it.
So let's see what happens now. It didn't like me because it's HTTPS. Let's try with HTTP. It switches to HTTPS. Why?
Maybe Firefox tries that. I don't know. My guess is that not all operating systems automatically starts the Nginx service, right?
But we didn't tell it to.
No. So if you install Nginx package on Ubuntu and Debian.
Oh, we just said present. We didn't say running.
So if you install the package on Ubuntu and Debian, it will automatically start the service for you. But maybe on Fedora, it's not starting the service. So it's still stopped. That's my guess. So you can continue with the configure Nginx perhaps, or add one more line to make sure that the service is running. copy that line to the setup Nginx task. And instead of reload, write Azure started. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But like this?
Almost no, sorry. Just like any other Azure.
As if I remembered any other answers. Yeah. There was another one.
Please use a comma in front.
Okay, this is how you want.
And then a fat comma between the value and the answer. So the parameter is called answer, and we pass a value started to it. The fat comma can stay if you want. It's matter of style.
Oh, so it's so basically that's what you would write.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I run this again.
Yep. So it probably will be fast. I mean, it synchronizes all the package databases now again, because we run it unconditionally. Then it will try to install the Nginx package, which is already installed, so should be fast. Basically just skip, because it checks if it's installed or not. And then it will manage the service. If the service is called Nginx, it's going to succeed. But if it's called, I don't know, HTTPD, then we have to build that mapping.
Okay, whatever it says.
Now try it in the browser.
That's the Fedora. Okay.
So the service was not running, and we wrote, I mean, it was a bug in our code because it was not supposed to manage Fedora before. Now it supports Fedora, because on Fedora, we must run the service command. And it's not just like we must run the service command, we just had to ensure that it is started. And that is a totally different command for Fedora than for Ubuntu and for BSD.
Okay.
And that's what Rex already abstracted away from us, because we described what we want, and Rex figured out what to run in the remote.
Okay. So
we want to quickly try to change the message in the HTML.
Yeah, that would be nice.
All right, so we write the source file, right? So where is it? It's the temp.rex index HTML, right?
This page.
Yes. All right. So if you look up the documentation for Rex commands file.
Rex commands.
: file. It has a brief description of how to use templates.
It's getting slower, the server.
Yeah, sometimes it takes a long time to load. Yeah. So basically, again, there's more than one way to do it. We can have inline templates embedded to the same file, or we can use a external file for that, and so on. That's what I would go for.
So we already have the file here. Welcome to Rex.
Yes, but we want to say on, and we have to file templating. We can have to write templating code there.
Like this.
Yes, but this could already be Perl code that returns the name of the operating system, right? Because we want to write welcome to Rex on Fedora, welcome to Rex on FreeBSD, right? So I think there's a get operating system. I think that's the best.
But we don't have Perl on 3 of them.
It doesn't matter because
It
Rex
runs on our server.
Wait.
Runs on the management server, on the management machine.
Yes.
Okay.
It goes over SSH to the remote, discovers what it is, and it saves it about
Okay.
internally, right?
Okay.
So okay.
We could put host name.
It's
and
get operating system for sure. Okay, let's run it on the command line first. We figure out the exact format and then copy paste it here. So just on Ubuntu 1. Let's eval -e.
Just a second, sorry.
Okay.
Okay. No. Sorry. Ooh, sorry, yeah. And here, nothing all -e. So we can use, you can actually use the host name that you already know, but you said we can run something else. Run.
Okay. I'll just look up the command on cpan and copy paste it. There's a built-in function in Rex that is called get operating system. So I don't need to run it because it's not a command line command. It's a per function. And I'm looking up the namespace of it. And that is, okay, I think you can just.
This is not for everyone. Okay.
Wait. Too many windows open. I'm pasting a link.
Okay, so I wrote correctly.
So you don't need the run. You need the run if you want to execute it as a command line command. But there's no such command in Bash or whatever system you use. It's simply a per subroutine. So delete the run from front. We only need the get operating system.
I just call get operating system.
Yes.
Probably I can say.
Yes. And it's Ubuntu.
Okay.
So that's what we need to put into the template file.
Nice. Okay.
Yes. So if you put that into the template file, it's maybe let's just specify it with the full namespace. That is so.
Okay. How do you do that? I'm just preparing for another thing.
Yeah. Instead of name, I would write it instead of name.
Yeah, the name will do differently. Okay. I would like to show both.
Do you know the host name there, or you want to pass it externally?
So I would like here to pass it externally and here to call it locally. So we'll see both. Okay, so you need after the % side an equal sign as well, because we want to evaluate it. And then the full namespace for the fully qualified name for the subroutine is in Rex commands gather, just to make sure we don't need to do too many debug runs. Just let's use that. Okay. Maybe it could work with the short name, but you know, we cannot make a mistake with the fully qualified name. Okay, so this is one, and the other one would be. And the dollar name, you would like to pass it in, right? Yeah. Okay, so again, pairs ID could have helped with this, but let's just. Sorry, this is where we're copying it. So instead of just copying, we'll do something else, right? Yes, so you can comment that out and copy it to the next line, or the other way around. Yeah, and instead of source, we are using content, because we are passing in the content explicitly. And then template and parentheses. It's a function. Template is a function, so we call it as a function, not quotes, parentheses. Yeah. It's too late for me, right? It's okay. It's the last example.
So first we specify the name of the template, which is inside
This
colons
file.
files main HTML. Yes. And then with the comma, yeah, we can specify the name of the parameters we want to pass to the templating engine.
Let's do it hostname.
But okay, for that, I would save it into a variable on the previous line. So my $hostname equals run hostname.
Run.
Yeah, hostname. So we save the result of this command line command into a variable and we pass the $hostname. Yeah. And we don't need the parentheses exactly. Hopefully we got all the details right.
Okay. So just remember, this is called the configure nginx.
Yep.
Okay, you didn't like me.
Okay, on some system it's not called www data. There's no such group, so it's not going to work on those systems. On CentOS, Fedora, and FreeBSD, it's a different group.
Okay.
So on one hand, it worked on Ubuntu and Debian. On the other hand, this is exactly what we need to configure, because these settings are different from operating system to operating system, right?
Okay. Anyone knows here who is still here? What are the users that are running those things? I'm good, right? Showing the etc password file. That's the right way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, what are you looking for?
A username. You use some username.
All usernames. Then maybe get and password would be better.
What?
Instead of cut, etc password, which would just dump the whole file.
Okay.
There's a command to get that is called getEnd. GetEnd, like get entity, getEnd space passwd. It basically does the same, but that's the command to. So it's called nginx.
No, you saw it already.
It's the last one because we just added it.
nginx.
Okay.
Send nginx. Not surprising. Free. Nobody.
There's no group for that.
www, maybe?
Could be. I don't know.
Okay. So let's go for the Fedora and CentOS for now.
So for that, I would basically create a lookup table in a hash, right? So the key of the hash is the name of the operating system and the value is the owner it's supposed to be. So it's going to be a variable. But Rex also has a built-in to help with that. Like if something matches this, use that. So much like a switch or case statement.
Okay, so don't tell me what to write.
So that's what I'm looking for up. Case. Yes, I'm going to copy the link for it. like this. This is a helper function specifically made for this purpose. As you can see, the documentation example is the exact same situation. Case operating system on Debian use something, by default something else, right?
Sorry, where are you looking for?
In a case. Just go up a bit.
Oh, okay.
There.
For some
That's
reason, it showed me something else. Okay.
Okay. So yeah. So as you can see, it tries to determine the NTP service name on different operating systems. So case operating system. If the value is Debian, use NTP. Otherwise, NTPD. We need very similar thing, but we would call it owner or group. It's more like owner, case operating system. And the left-hand side, the keys are actually regular expressions. So you can also use that.
What do you mean? Like Debian or
if you go back to the documentation, there's the second example is exactly that. It's a QR, like quoting a regular expression. So that also seems like the default case, so that's also fine. Yeah, but you can write the rest.
Okay, I don't know what to do here. I just put it here for now.
And create entries for FreeBSD, Fedora, CentOS.
So Fedora and CentOS.
Yeah, it's good to do it in case insensitively, like you did,
and
because we don't know how to capitalize. That was Nginx.
Nginx.
Mm-hmm. And then on FreeBSD.
FreeBSD or whatever. Let's put it in this way, because we don't really know what is the. And make it www. That was it.
Yeah, let's try that.
Okay.
So below, you can set up the owner accordingly.
And let's hope that the group is the same.
Yeah, let's hope that. If not, we just need the same data structure for that.
Okay.
There's a typo missing S, operating system instead of system.
Interesting.
Yeah, that operating system is an alias for get operating system. It does the same.
Sorry?
Previously, we used get operating system. Now we are using operating system without the get.
Yeah, but
those are aliases for each other.
Yeah, but the S is missing here.
Yeah, that's a easy contribution option for anyone watching us.
Okay. It was it was just a copy paste.
Okay, yeah, you copy paste it. That's looks like we were right. Let's check the output. Let's check the output. I think on Ubuntu and Debian we will get the proper output, and on the others, yeah, on the others we need to configure Nginx differently. It's probably not using the proper configuration file, right?
Yeah.
Or it was not reloaded or restarted.
So wait a second, that's Ubuntu Ubuntu. That's Ubuntu Ubuntu. And this is Dev1 Debian. So these are okay, and these three are not. Okay. Do you still have the energy to continue fixing it? I'm okay with it.
We can try.
Okay.
We can try. If you want to go forward.
Yeah, that's
I mean, that's what he wanted to do today, so why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my guess about the problem is that we are also writing the nginx config file to a specific location, like ubu1.conf, right? Above.
So we configure
few sections above.
Wait a second. This one. Yeah.
Yes. So maybe
and
not the same path.
And some. Okay. And this was also sort of missing. So we see the removing. Okay. And this is probably something that's not really the way you would do, right? Because there is a default configuration file, and I had to get rid of it in order to this one to take effect.
Okay. I would write it with file name, Azure absent, right?
Okay.
The difference is run is a command and file is a resource.
Yeah, right.
So the command will be run all the time.
File.
Yeah.
And then ensure absent.
Yeah, that's what I would do. But what if on Fedora it's not called like that? Maybe it's default.conf, right? I don't know. That's exactly the tasks for us to find out and make sure that Rex knows about these differences, right? Rex knows about the difference in package manager and service manager to use, but whatever the different operating systems, package maintenance or package management guidelines are, or how does that change over time, Rex, that's out of scope for Rex. Okay. So that's the task of the code maintainer, us today, to make sure we have this mapping. So we have to check if it's called the same on Fedora, CentOS, and FreeBSD. We have to go through the whole task and make sure we are abstracting away the differences. So in the end, it will end up again the same logic: deploy the config file, deploy the HTML file, and restart the service. But the naming will be different system by system. So that's the short answer how to handle multiple operating systems. Most of it is already abstracted away, but there are always these kind of differences that should be configured. So it is just data, right? So we are not writing new logic. We are just writing configuration now.
Okay.
Yeah. So we
probably have to put it here.
Yeah, so if I understand correctly, on Fed1, the configuration directory is different.
Yeah, it's probably.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
I mean, there's also sites enabled. What's the difference?
Sorry?
There's also sites enabled. What's the difference? Why does it
okay,
not?
No, you're right. Probably that's what we need to do. Sites enabled. What?
The Rex file has a typo now. The Rex file is
always. We don't use the Rex file.
Yes, we do. The Rex file is always red if it's available in the current directory.
Oh.
And now that is on line 22 was what's it called? Invalid.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah. So I see. Wait, the directory exists because we created it with Rex, right?
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so this is the point where the next step is to look up Fedora documentation, how to configure Nginx on Fedora, and send to us. I have no idea about that off the top of my head. I would need to find out.
So FreeBSD, I have totally no idea what to do. So let's go with the CentOS, and I think for CentOS, that's it. So there's the confd, and we have to put it there. Okay, so let's try to do this.
Okay.
So I create like this, another one.
Yeah, let's try that.
Right.
Nginx config dir or something like that.
It's enough.
All right.
So this would be these two, and okay, and then here, I guess I can put here Nginx dir.
Yeah.
And the same here.
Yeah. I think it's a good time to note, because we are assuming that the path separator in the file system is the /. But if Windows would also be included in the managed host, then it would be different, right? So this kind of operations might get a nice benefit from using file spec, the standard modules for that. We know that we are going to use only Linux hosts, so we cannot, we don't need to do that right now. That's just a nice example.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if somebody would like to write a really multi-purpose and multi-OS support in a module and publish it to cpan, they probably need to think about, okay, what about Windows?
Okay, so we are just starting to create more mess here. So
could be because we started to guess instead of look up the docs.
yeah, that happens.
And yeah, and the long session. I'm fine to continue. Just let's find out what you need to write.
Okay. So that was the.
Okay, I just start to look for that Fedora Nginx config. How to install and configure Nginx on Fedora. Nginx in the Fedora project wiki. That sounds like official. So it says, you may install Nginx, we did that, or DNF, but Rex already abstracts that away. The service is called Nginx. Configuration, etc nginx nginx.conf. All right, so we don't need conf.d, even though I would expect that it would read it, because it should include. Could you maybe print the contents of the etc nginx nginx.conf file from Fedora and send to us?
Okay, I just 1 second. I just wanted to verify that we have these. Now they are owned by Nginx, which is probably good, and we have the index files here. Okay, so you asked me to
cat etc nginx nginx.conf. So just to note that cat is so common command that there's a built-in rex command to do that. So we can also skip the run and just say cat something. All right. My question is, does it have a line that includes conf.d directory? I think I saw that.
Wait.
Or just grep. Grep include.
Yeah. Grep include.
Yeah. So it does include everything from under etc nginx conf.d.conf. Okay. Do we write .conf? Yeah, both seems to be fine. And we write
.conf.
Okay. So what we do is correct. Next, as a next step, I would look at the nginx logs.
So you would do what? Sorry?
As a next step, I would read the nginx logs.
The logs.
Was it restarted? Was it properly accessed? Which file does it try to serve? So on.
Okay, so shall I actually SSH to this machine now?
If you want, but you can also just grab the logs with Rex. I mean, we are debugging why does the nginx doesn't work. We can log in for that because it's a development.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably have a separate machine and working out the things on that, and then trying only then trying Rex. Okay. So what now?
You can run the same, like
sorry.
I mean, if you want to use Rex for that, you can. It's fine. You can keep running cat commands and grabbing for that. That's also fine. But maybe it's faster. Less warlock nginx. Nginx. Access log, error log, yeah.
TMP Rex not
found. No such file or directory. Yeah, okay, I know. I saw the problem. Go back, please. I think one problem is that we configured the server name to be Ubuva. That's definitely not good. See?
The server name?
Yep.
Where do you see it?
Server Ubu1. We are on the Fed1 machine. We should call it Fed1. But we are accessing it via the IP. So
where do you see this? I don't see this.
At the right-hand side of the screen, at the end of lines, on the bottom 3 lines. Server is Ubu1.
Okay.
So there's definitely something we should fix. But since we access it via IP address, it might not be the root problem.
No, but it says it can't find the file because it's owned by root.
But it's readable by everyone. So
that's true.
You can also try to access it as the nginx user. Can you read it? Okay. What's the owner of the parent directory? Okay, it should be accessible. But you can also ask sudo -u nginx and cut temprex index HTML. It can read it, so it's not a permission problem.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to restart. But We already restarted it when we changed it, right? Let's curl localhost or something. Let's find it out. Or maybe just a default configuration.
So we don't need this. That's our assumption, right?
Yep.
But we need here.
We need it in conf.d. Yeah.
Sorry.
We access it by IP address, so I'm not sure if that's a problem there. It doesn't look good, but I don't think it's a problem now, right?
So maybe the fact that we also have a section here doesn't like it.
Yes. Yes, good call. I also wanted to check the overall configuration.
So I comment this out for now.
That conflicts with our file. Or we can just quick question. How about instead of writing to conf.d, we just overwrite nginx.conf on the top level?
Well, there are all, yeah, we can just.
So in our code, we don't rely on this include logic and the default config.
But it still doesn't work.
We need to restart. Did you restart?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, my suggestion is that now we stop, because I think we're very tired for this. We figure it out, and then we'll trying to do it at another time. Okay. I'll try to figure it out myself, how to do this manually, and then we can automate it with Rex. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a nice next step. These pitfalls are usually there if you have to deal with heterogeneous infrastructure. This is just like different operating systems have different approaches about things. They do different passes, different namings, different default configs. So that has to be abstracted away and represented in code, and then it will work. As you could see, most of it already worked. So the logic is mostly the same. It just needs different data to operate on.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think it's best that we stop this. We way over the time we allocated to this. Thank you very much for doing this and trying to explain me. And I hope to see you soon. Next time I'll continue with finishing this one and then continuing with other things if you still have the energy for doing this. Okay?
Yeah, sure. It would be nice to continue towards the final goal of setting up all the ELK stack you imagine. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Good. So thank you very much for listening, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
All right. See you, Gabo.